you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love, because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
We can get on a plane and take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to disappear for a night, just to give into the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you own me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Good morning, folks. Thanks for watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I am the People's Pundit, Rich Barris. You guys can follow me on Twitter if you don't already, at Peoples_Pundit. All right, so we got 4 days left to go. This is where we're at. Wisconsin will be crunched today. It took a little bit trickling in. Minnesota, also a very sparsely populated state, right? So we just have a different methodology than others, and that's why, as usual, we're going to have different results than others, right? We need to take adequate samples, have adequate sample sizes from different populations, because the laws of randomization have been thoroughly molested in the era of modern polling. So the only way we can accurately make sure we know how Macomb County may look, how we know how Oakland County may look, is to make sure we get a big enough sample size to know for sure. All right. And then weight regionally by education, age, gender, race, and all the other goodies. Region and education, region and education. And that is why we are different than others. All right. Which brings us, because like I said yesterday, we are going to do this shortened. I simply don't have the time to get all of this polling done. And I'd like to circle back to one or two more. I don't want to promise anything, but I'd like to circle back and hit a couple other states. But Wisconsin's up next, Minnesota to follow, and we're just going to go ahead and show you what we got. So here we go with the Wolverine Battleground State Poll, okay? We nailed Michigan in 2016. We were one of the few to do so. We have Michigan currently light blue, and this is why. And if we were wrong, by the way, you would not see Barack Obama, right, Laura? You would not see Barack Obama racing back to Michigan on Saturday with Joe Biden to try to draw a crowd and try to get out the vote. There are a few problems here. We definitely see some significant tightening in some of the other, subsamples that we had grabbed. Ironically, some areas, when you have samples like this is the way it is. This is why we want to oversample areas like Macomb and Oakland. All right. And we'll get into the specifics. All right. So, but what we got, bang, is rounded Biden 49, Trump 47, undecided 2, Jorgensen 1, Hawkins 1, others other one. Now, judging on turnout, this was a pretty Republican electorate, considering even past electorates. We could look at the voter file, and I will show you guys what I'm talking about. Well, years ago when we first started this, even given Michigan and how it is, the voter file inferred, was like D+9 years ago, then D+6. Over the years, the inference, anyway, has gotten more and more Republican. And this year, the inference is actually R+. It's not an R poll. Ours is a D+ electorate, and I'm going to tell you why. There are clearly people in 2016, Donald Trump won the state of Michigan, not by winning, and he did win a good deal of Democrats, and I think more than the exit polls showed. But he didn't win the state by winning, like 20% of the Reagan Democrat, or they look like the Reagan Democrat, but they don't call themselves a Reagan Democrat. 2016 was D+9, according to the exit polls. I would dispute that. But Trump killed it among independents, 52-36. This is what we see. We see Trump doing worse with independents, and that has been the storyline. But as usual, it is not the full picture. It is easy to tell a simple story, right? For the media to do that. It's much harder to tell a detailed story. The inference in the voter file and the self-reporting has gotten more Republican. So it's not that Trump is really losing. He lost ground with that many independents. That's not what's happening here. There are more independents from 2016 that now call themselves Republicans. And it's completely backed up by what we see in the voter file, the inference from the voter file. And inference works by who did you donate to, what party primary did you vote in, a load of factors that go into it that recognize whether or not in a state where there's no registration, you are a Democrat or you are a Republican. Right now, in the voter file, the inference is this: Republican, 37.5%, Democrat, 33.5%, unknown, about 29%. And I rounded there a little bit, but you get my point. Our poll is D+2, which is considerably Republican. Or D+3, excuse me. I'm sorry. It's D+3. 38, 35, 27. What we simply see is that most of those independents from 2016 now call themselves Republicans. Many of these people, they are the same people. All right. And then also, too, some of the Democrats call themselves independents. You understand where I'm going with this? It is just not as clear as the picture that the media paints it. All right. So, well within the sampling era, if we were wrong, and we are not, I really don't think we are, but if we were wrong, you would not see Barack Obama running back to Michigan. Like, oh my God, what the hell is going on? I have to be honest with you guys. I looked at the raw data. I thought this was going to at least be a Biden +6 poll. I thought it was really ugly for Trump. I mean, it looked close in some areas, but in others, it just didn't. And I was like, what did I say? 4, right, Laura? This is without crunching this and going region by region by region. And before we even get into basic demographics, let's look at that, because this is what is really key. Okay. And I know you guys have a hard time seeing it, so I will tell you, I will read it to you. This is the Biden news report. I was wondering and curious. So as of the most recent, anyway, a little over 70% has told us that they are familiar with the recent reports about Joe Biden. Okay. That is not anywhere near where it was in 2016 when we asked about Hillary Clinton's email scandal. All right. Anyway, let's take a look at this. Oh, by the way, this is the first time we found Donald Trump closer to Joe Biden than John James is to Gary Peters. They're both well within the sampling era, and it is very close. There are a group of voters who like John James who do not like Donald Trump, and vice versa. Okay. So with that in mind, let's go. Wayne County, 65% for Joe Biden, right about where he was before. Donald Trump, 29.6. Most of the undecideds that I see, I think are Biden friendly. All right. This is why I'm I'm not as bullish on Trump's chances to hold Michigan as I am in his chances to hold Pennsylvania. But these states don't vote typically that far apart. And when I mean these, 2016 was an outlier. Pennsylvania, Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and even at one time, Ohio used to vote relatively in line with each other. It was a very lopsided racial election, racially, demographic speaking, in 2016. And then this time, it's the total opposite. This time, the Republican Party has a candidate that is doing something they always wanted. It's what their 2012 autopsy after Romney's defeat called for. It was their goal of the autopsy. And yet you have those very same people who funded that autopsy actively working now against Donald Trump. It's incredible. Because it's not them. Good point, Laura. Because it's not them. These are the biggest frauds the human race has to offer. The Bill Kristols, the Mitt Romneys, the Ben Sasses, the Paul Ryans, the Fat George Conways. When they were and the Frank Luntzes, the starving Frank Luntz, when they were holding the reins of this party, that's what they wanted. But they couldn't get it done. So now they're doing everything they can so they can make themselves feel better inside and say, I told you so. They're dying to say that. They've been waiting 4 years to say that. So they want to be the saviors, right? They want to. That's so, she nailed it. Because we've been talking to a lot of people over the last couple of days. And they know this is true. They know Donald Trump is at a level with Black Americans they could have only hoped for. And we'll go over race in a second. But let's look at region. Because ironically, what they've done is hurt him among some demographics of whites. That in order to put together a landslide coalition, they need to hold most of those whites. And I'm talking about a real party coalition that can compete with an ever-changing demographic country that the Democrats have intentionally set us on this course to become. And you needed to become something else that was not Paul Ryan, not Mitt Romney. Much, much more working class, yet someone who still appealed to the suburbs, which Republicans used to win handily. And we're going to look at the suburbs, and I've got some notable commentary that I want to just read to you verbatim, okay? Verbatim, because I don't want to give up. I wrote it to somebody. They wanted my thoughts, and I said, I'll put it on the screen, the spreadsheet, but I'm going to give it to you verbatim. Let's look by region, all right? So I give you Wayne County. Trump's about where he is. Hillary's about where Joe Biden is right where Hillary was in Wayne County. No big change. So turnout there will be key, except there are 3.7% who are undecided in Wayne. And we actually think that there are some rich votes for Donald Trump in that particular area. Okay? Oakland, Macomb. Joe Biden 51.4, Donald Trump 46.7. When we allocate these leaners, it goes to Joe Biden 42, Donald Trump 47.5, roughly, a little close to there's some that are parking their third party votes, so the system would allocate them, but it would be roughly that. Again, bigger sampling errors for smaller subsamples. So it's entirely possible that it could be better or worse for one candidate or the other. But if you're a Republican, you want to fight the Oakland Macomb to a near draw. And Donald Trump's on his way to do that. It looks like he can do that. It's close. But if he closes it just a little bit, or even if he just wins the North Central upvote a little bit more, then he can offset it. And the biggest target-rich environment for him right now, there are 4.2% who are undecided in the Southwest. The lion's share, probably 6 out of 8, are going to go to Trump over there. And that could help also to offset. But there are a lot of votes in Oakland. A lot of votes. So he's going to have to do even better in the Southeast, which is right now Monroe, his strongest county. But right now in the Southwest, it's about 48.4 to 42.3. In the Southeast, it's Biden, 49.8 to 48.2. And in North Central up, it's Trump romping by 22 points, which is no shocker, and 1.4% undecided. Again, subgroups where we see that Biden 2-point lead is really from the Macomb-Oakland split. So Trump can do a little bit worse in up if he does better in Monroe and Macomb. All right. So there we have it. Now, looking by area, and I'm going to go through this pretty quick because we don't have a lot of time. And I don't mean too quick. I mean, I'm just going to keep trying without my usual distractions to stay focused. And we'll hit the Senate race after I'm done with the presidential. Okay. In the urban areas, Joe Biden leads 62. Okay. Well, bottom line is Biden leads 51-47 in the burbs, 62-30 in urban areas, while Trump leads 60-33 in rural Michigan. In the Midwest, the burb swing that everyone keeps talking about is simply not as pronounced as we've seen it in other states. It's just not. In some of these battleground states, we didn't see that. And in Arizona, one of the biggest differences between our polls and others is that Trump is actually winning the suburbs. He's just not winning them by the margin that he won them by in 2016. 51-47 in Michigan is why Obama is going in Michigan suburbs, is why Barack Obama is going back to Michigan. Period. Full stop. And he's bringing Joe Biden with him. He's doing the campaigning in Michigan. All right. And that's why. This has to be bigger. I was talking over with Laura last night when we were looking at the results. We are getting into a bit of a trap where we're comparing polling results to election results instead of comparing poll results to poll results. In 2016, Donald Trump was not going to win the suburbs according to the polls. Some polls had him doing better nationally in the burbs, but state level polls, Hillary Clinton was winning the suburbs in Pennsylvania. Hillary Clinton was winning the suburbs in Michigan. Hillary Clinton was winning the suburbs in Minnesota, in the couple of polls in Minnesota. I think people are forgetting. She was never going to lose the burbs, folks. Remember? This is very different. And there's everything, just like in politics, just like everything else. When there is an event or a force is acting on something, it usually has some kind of an impact or net effect, right? And so if he loses a little bit in the burbs, is there anything else that we can see going on here? Republicans are always underestimated in the rural vote share, always when it comes to polls. Yet Joe Biden's only at 33% in rural Michigan. Trump's at 60%. Republicans usually split the burbs in polls, and if you go back to 2016, you will not find a 60-30. You will find a 55-35. Or in some, 55-40. This is an interesting result. He's going to get a big vote in a lot of these rural counties. In urban areas, he's doing a little bit better. Even our polling in 2016 was 27%. I went back and looked at it yesterday. So what I'm saying is this is a potential problem. I don't understand how pollsters, like, they got a God complex or something. As wrong as they've been, they have a God complex. The difference between what we're doing and others are doing is I'm trying to look at places where we can improve. And I really do believe that this is a better, accurate representation of the race. Even ABC with their ridiculous Biden plus 17 in Wisconsin, they found Biden by 7 in Michigan, yet characterized it as a small, narrow lead. 7 points is a narrow lead. Not in my polling world. 2 points is a narrow lead. 4 points is a narrow lead, depending on your sampling error. 7 points is not a narrow lead. So I feel very confident that we came down here on the right side of this thing. I really do. All right, so real quick, let's look at the Senate before I race off to the social desirability questions. All right. Some were allocated with, we did not fully put all the leaners in, no. And some were because we did basically at this point in Michigan, it's almost like a permission basis, right? And then they will get leaned as the time goes on. And that's why I would say, honestly, I still think Biden does have a slight edge in Michigan, given turnout, if the way I projected the turnout to be. I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong. I'm just saying that when I look at who I think is going to lean, they duped me in Pennsylvania, though. When we asked those people in Pennsylvania to lean, I thought they were going to lean to Biden. Many of these people, they did not. In fact, almost all the undecided black young vote leaned to Donald Trump, which that's what stunned me. And that took them up from. So, I mean, I never want to assume, which is why we don't change our results given the desirability bias questions like I think some others do. We're not doing that because people will always surprise you, until they give you explicit permission or confirmation. We don't do that. Okay. Ironically, Trump is doing better than John James among the black vote. I could be wrong here, but John James about 11%. I believe Trump was at about 13%. Okay, so here we go. James and Peters are locked in a very close race. Why? Because there are a lot of undecideds. There are 8% undecideds. We did lean some. There was actually higher than that. We did lean some. We're going to go back and hit them, and we're going to close that gap. All right. By the time we're done, there'll be more like 2% maybe undecided. All right. But right now, Peters has just a 3-point lead, 45-42. Marcia Squire from the Green Party, she's taken about 2%. You can clearly see where that 2% is coming from. It's coming from equal share, 4 and 4, equal share. Someone else got about 2.6. There are a lot of others on the ballot for people who don't know. I'm not surprised they're garnering, 2.5% of the vote together, all of them. Thing is here, Gary Peters is not doing as well among females as Joe Biden. All right, so the female vote is essentially locked up, and Trump has got to win over the remaining men. That would be what he'd have to do. Plus, turnout would have to fall in line with what he needs it to be. Gary Peters has taken the youth vote, but he's under 50%. It's very different in the presidential race. From 45 up, John James takes it, and then seniors are split. That's problematic because I'm going to show you by age why. This is why Trump got closer in our polling. You can see right here, seniors, where my little thing is moving. Donald Trump has now taken a lead with seniors in Michigan. And I don't want to get Trump supporters' hopes up, but I am saying this. If you want to win the state of Michigan as a Republican, you have got to get those older white seniors. You've got to. And actually, they tend to vote Democratic. Right here, we got Trump leading by about 3 points with them. That's what happened in 2016 at the very end. Do you remember? And they were stubborn as hell. Right now, there's hardly any of them. It's 2.7% are undecided. That's Trump's richest group. It's close. It can happen. It can. The only thing is, Trump is not doing as well with the 30 to 44 crowd in Michigan as he is doing in Pennsylvania. Okay. And you can see there's almost 4% of them that still have yet to lean. That's why I think Biden has more votes to tap. You understand what I'm saying? I just do. Unless I'm wrong about the electorate, and the electorate turns out to be like R+1, which would be crazy.
You think with him hiding because they don't want to associate his face with Bob Ulinsky, that might have an effect?
I don't know. I really don't know. I think these are people. Did I talk about the waitress? No. I didn't. Oh, no, because that was Jeff Wright. I was telling somebody on the phone who is a friend, but also somebody who's, I'm going to forget it. But we were talking deep about it. It was a girl, all right, 30 to 44. And she was a outlier vote in 2016. She voted for Donald Trump. She was in the 18 to 29 category. She works in the service industry. She is a leisure and hospitality worker. And she didn't want to lean yet. Even though she said, I'm leaning to Joe Biden, but I'm not, don't put me as a lean, but I'm leaning to Joe Biden because of the shutdown, which is, I know what some of you Trump supporters are going to say. I already know what you're going to say. The bottom line is, though, she has been hurt from the shutdown. And she thought, you know what? I'm just going to say, this is what I told Tim was going to happen. Do you remember the early shows? This is what I told some other person who now all of a sudden is trying to raise his stature by attacking me. And if I say his name, then I'll make his stupid little strategy work. So I'm not going to. But he was on pro shutdown crowd. He was on team shutdown. This is what these less politically astute people didn't understand. It's easy to blame the guy at the top, folks,
Not
even
because
if it's unfair. It's easy. And in Michigan, spoke with Mike Dittmer briefly yesterday. You might be watching the show. In Michigan, he did help shine some light on this for me, actually. He said Governor Whitmer has been running around on ads everywhere, every time she gets earned media, every chance she gets, to tell people in Michigan, to tell Michiganders, if you don't like the lockdowns anymore, then you have to vote for Joe Biden. So it's kind of like an extortion, but this is her rationale. Because Donald Trump isn't handling the crisis well enough. And only Joe Biden can get a hold of it so we can reopen. This woman believed it. She doesn't really know what to believe, but you could tell she's heard that message and she believed it. And it resonated. Well, maybe if Donald Trump handled this better, we wouldn't have had to lock down. You know, and I know that's ludicrous. The real thing is experts, public health experts. He allowed them to get control of policy. You know, I mean, he allowed them to start also running economic policy. And that's why I think the tape that they tried to drop, yes, I was told that there was a bombshell coming against Trump. It was that stupid Kushner tape. What a joke. That's it. So Trump took, if this girl had heard that, the New York Times thinks that is the Bob Woodward thing, right? The New York Times think that will hurt Trump. With this girl, that will help Trump. If she heard what Jared Kushner said on that tape, which is the president has now taken back economic policy from the health experts. She'd want to hear that. She would want to hear that. So, and by the way, folks, this is not a girl you would profile as somebody who you would think would vote for Donald Trump. But she did in 2016. And there were a lot of people like that. And now she's 30 to 44, not 18 to 29 anymore, and she's got to survive. So I know it may be hard for some people to grasp. That's why I tend to love to just shut up and listen to what people tell me instead of, trying to view the world through my own eyes. You have to view it through their eyes. And that is and I'm glad Mike contacted me yesterday because he helped me understand that, but that's where it's coming from. So there's a lot of those. You got almost 4% in the 30 to 44 category. But what you do see is Donald Trump doing better with the 45 to 64 and the 65 plus than James. I think because there's so many more left over undecided, I think John James could end up outperforming Donald Trump, even though the poll is 2 and 3 or 2 and 2.9. Actually, John James only down 2.9. That is well within the margin. And there are so many undecideds and so many groups. He could beat Gary Peters. This really can happen. And at first, I was highly skeptical that John James could beat Gary Peters. But absolutely, it's absolutely possible. Last time he fell a little shy because he did not romp the Trump vote. Remember that? And he did do better in Wayne than Donald Trump did, right? Right now, they're about the same in Wayne. They're about the same. They're about the same in Oakland Macomb. He's doing a little bit better in the southeast than Donald Trump, but his north central upvote is abysmal. It's compared to Donald Trump. Trump's at like 60% here, and John James is only at 48.2. Now he's well ahead. He's got a 16-point lead on Gary Peters, and there's a ton undecided. That the lion's share of these people will go to John James. And then the Southwest is a very vote-rich area for Republicans, especially somebody like him. He's proven that he can do better in Wayne. What I'm saying is, in the undecideds, who remains undecided, even though James is actually now, for the first time, underperforming Trump, I see the undecideds as a more vote-rich area for James. So I actually, even though James is down 1 point compared to Trump, I have more confidence in James's ability to flip this seat. But he's got to get the Trump vote. He's got to, which he's lagging here. 10 points behind Donald Trump in North Central up. Maybe there's a desirability bias. I don't know, guys. I don't know. I really don't know what to say about that. I don't know how to put that. Look, you can see James is actually carrying the independent vote by about 5.3 points. Trump is not. Okay. So Trump is carrying it by about 1 point. And again, there are going to be more Republicans in this electorate than there were last time. 31 compared to 35. So I think what some pollsters are missing is that this group is not the same group. They're not the same people. And many of them from 2016, a group Trump romped by 20 points, have now moved over to Republican. And look, Donald Trump they're losing the same amount of their party to each other. It's just that there currently are more Democrats. Now, if the inference in the voter file turns out to be right and I turn out to be wrong, and it's like R plus something, he could carry the state of Michigan as long as he just holds a stinking 1 point lead with independents, because they're losing equal shares of their base. We're just simply not finding this 15-point base erosion. I mean, they're not polling everybody.
Plus 17?
I mean, I've just said, yesterday was 17, and that was enormous crossover in Wisconsin. We simply aren't seeing that. And if you just were to poll Oakland and Wayne County, then you're going to find that. But if you poll everywhere else, the Southwest, the North Central and up, which is the Upper Peninsula, it's what it stands for. If you were to do that, then you start to get 2, 3, 4%. Because they're smaller samples. He starts to take huge shares of the Republican vote, which in like Wayne, maybe it's 12% crossover, or not even Wayne. Oakland is a good place. Maybe Oakland is like 12% crossover. But then when you add together the other regions, the more rural regions, it pulls that 12% down. And in the end, it ends up like 8.5%. 8.5%, 9% for each, roughly where it was in 2016. No difference. The difference is these independents, many of them used to be independent. Now they're Republican. And that would make perfect sense with the voter file. Perfect sense. Because gone are the D+6s in Michigan in the voter file. Somebody said Lower Peninsula, North Central, lots of John James signs. Have not seen Peter signs. Yeah, in the Lower Peninsula. It's really where James was falling short. The central area, Livingston, that maybe is a little bit better. But right, the lower part up, he's just not getting the votes that Trump is getting. And I don't know what that is. It could be because, and I'm just saying because we saw this in Florida, it's possible it's because of his race. They don't say it. I don't know. I don't like to cast aspersions on people like that, but they look like James voters. You wouldn't think that they're going to vote for Gary Peters. It just doesn't make sense. I think, like I said, James has a 3-point deficit. Trump only has a 2, but I like James's chances because the undecideds look better for James. You know what I mean? I really do. Like, you can see right here, there's almost no undecided vote among Republicans. Trump has maxed it out. It's maxed out. There's still some Democrats and independents, and these independents, they don't approve of the president by majority.
And up is UP.
Yeah, UP. Yeah, I put it like this. Here, let me show you. The independents that remain undecided do not particularly like Donald Trump. And that's the thing. So he needs them to just kind of not vote, And they do fall into this category of 50% no, 30% yes. So in a high turnout election, which all signs point to, it's very possible that they do vote. That's why we put that in there. All right. So let's take a real quick 30-second break. All right. When we come back, we're going to look at the shy indicators. It's important. Michigan set a record for the election 2020 public polling project. All right. We'll talk about it more when we come back. You're watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I am the People's Pundit, Rich Barris. Follow me on Twitter right there at People's_Pundit if you don't already. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, folks. What a surge we've had. What a surge indeed. Kind of like third quarter GDP. You guys see that? We should go over that before the end of the show. A historic 33.1% gain. That erases the historic drop from the COVID shutdown. Clearly an indication the U.S. is out of recession. We have ended them on our charts. The Fed did too until I guess they buckled to pressure, but they know the damn recession's over. Everybody knows it's over. And then also we're going to go over a bombshell report that made a lot of waves yesterday that I alluded to you with the vaccine. All right. So when we come back, we'll wrap up the Michigan poll. We'll get a couple of these indicators in here. Both are things, I mean, with 4 days to go, GDP and vaccine development deserve at least a couple of minutes of our time. And the people who source the story, by the way, they deserve it too, because it was, I'm sure, not an easy decision to talk to us. All right. So when we come back, we'll wrap up Michigan, the shy indicator vote. The shy indicators could help to explain maybe if and when their media polling misses. All right. And we'll talk about that when we get back. All right. We'll be back in 30 seconds. All right, we're back to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. Laura was trying to read some of your questions when we get there. I'll try to, guys, but tomorrow. I'll dedicate a lot tomorrow to questions. All right, I will. I will just say we can, before I leave this polling thing, Laura, remind me to answer that super chat question. Okay. All right. Here we go. So shy believers. Let's go into this real quick. And then, by the way, we did age detail too. Is it in here? I think it is. Yep. We've been doing this. So when we put together the surveys, I show you 18 to 29, 30 to 44, 45 to 64, and 65 plus as seniors. And I do that to be exit poll friendly. But when we are breaking down and weighting, we are being more detailed than that. So it's really 18 to 24. Why? Because a pollster, a media pollster, they could get a bunch of 19 and 20-year-olds lopsided on the 18 to 24 range and then just use that for their 18 to 29, even though they did not get enough 25 to 29. That's how much more granular they need to be. And some do, but some don't. All right, so I decided to start to show you guys the age detail because that's how we really weight. All right, we simplify it, but that's how we weight. All right. Anyway, so let's look at this. Do you believe there is a significant number of shy voters who do not want to share that they are voting for Donald Trump? 67.3%. All right, roughly, you guys remember, roughly, if you go and look at the map on PPD, by the way, which you can do, roughly close, 67.3, a little bit higher than Pennsylvania, a little bit higher than Florida. Arizona was the worst for that at 83.4%, only 16.5 disbelieve. We call them shy disbelievers. And another 16.2% are unsure. However, Michigan set the record for the most uncomfortable to poll. All right. And I think this is actually more alarming than the shy believers when you're talking about whether or not there can be a miss. All right. Only 36.7% said they were very comfortable being truthful to us about their political beliefs, such as how they intended to vote for president or anything for vote at all. But, right, we're obviously focusing here on the presidential race. Only 36.7 said they were very comfortable. That is the lowest yet. And here, let me show you this. All right, I'm looking at the map over there. Somewhat comfortable was only 25.7%, in line with the Rust Belt. The difference is normally some of those Rust Belt states, they have a much higher number of very comfortable. Somewhat uncomfortable was significantly higher than anywhere we've polled yet at 20.3%. And very uncomfortable, 17.3%. So altogether, almost 4 out of 10 voters in Michigan expressed some level of discomfort with the interview. And not just with the interview itself. Whether or not they're comfortable being truthful about their political beliefs. That is not good. And a note about that, by the way, I mean, just from a statistician's point of view, Laura, that is not good. So altogether, they posted the highest percentage. The Wolverine State posted the highest percentage of voters at 37.6% combined who say they are uncomfortable being truthful to pollsters discussing their political beliefs, such as how I intend to vote for president. That includes 20.3% who were somewhat and 17.3% who were very uncomfortable. Perhaps the most noteworthy when we were drilling down, suburban voters at 20%. Suburban are much more likely than rural and urban, both 14.2, to say they are very comfortable. So both urban, city, and rural say they're came in at 14.2%. That's not great either, but it's certainly lower and significantly, statistically significant than suburban voters at 20%. Who did the polls miss last time? The major problem was a suburban woman. What is the talk of the town right now? So if there's a polling miss, where do you think that's going to come from? You're telling me 1 out of 5 suburban voters self-report that they're uncomfortable and there's no room for a miss? 1 in 5. Come on. I'm stunned by the God complex my industry is developing. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. All right. So there we have it. Again, this is the first time Trump has outperformed John James and Republicans on the generic ballot. The generic ballot is not good for Republicans in Michigan. It's just not. 47% say they're going to vote for the Democratic candidate. 41% say they're going to vote for the Republican candidate. While there is still the largest share of undecideds, we're not leaning in the generic ballot. All right. We're not. While there's the highest number undecided there, all Democrats have to do is take 3 and 10 to get to 50. That would be they would not have to, what I'm saying is, they would not have to worry about some marginal House races. I do think Paul Young probably has to worry. Melissa Slotkin still does probably have to worry about Paul Young. It's just that, ironically, Ingham and Oakland, because Paul was the so-called moderate, I don't see any gain. I don't see any overperformance than from, speaking of Mike Dittmer, I don't see any overperformance that leads me to believe that Paul Young is a stronger candidate than Mike Dittmer. In fact, what I see is a ton of undecided in Livingston County. Mike Dittmer is from Livingston County. It is 72% Republican. That is where a Republican needs to run it up in Michigan's 8th congressional district if they're going to win a race. They got to keep Oakland light pink, and they got to run it up in Livingston. And just, they're going to get clobbered in Ingham. It's going to happen. If Republicans lose this district, it's because they voted for the wrong person in the primary. You vote for the strongest Republican who can drive out your Republican base. It's incredible to me, the argument that the so-called moderates can do better. And every year, it's just not true. It's not even becoming true with Democrats anymore. Once upon a time, maybe in a national race. But look at some of the House races we've seen. In the end, most elections are base elections. It's like the very human thing, folks. You don't follow someone who doesn't believe in what they're saying. No leader garners a following when people know that leader doesn't believe the crap he is selling. You understand what I'm saying? It's not like psephology. It's psychology. It's just nobody follows someone who doesn't believe in themselves and their own tout. Like them or love them, Scott Walker repeatedly got the votes of people who don't typically vote Republican in Wisconsin. Why? Because they knew where he stood.
Even after a recall,
right. They threw tons of money at this guy. They only beat him because he was on the ballot one too many times in 2018, and because such a strong election, and yet he still made it close. And by the way, I have a feeling Wisconsin is going to be close in our polling too. Kenosha is like one of those counties where I just go right to. And in the polling in Kenosha, I can't believe it. I cannot believe, first of all, how close to representative it is, even though it skews slightly female. Oh, one thing to note, our Oakland-Macomb subsample skews a little too female. So it is entirely possible
That he just takes it.
that he does better in Macomb and then fights Oakland to a draw, which is what you got to try to do. The exit polls will tell you that's what he did with Hillary Clinton. You do the math yourself, and the hell with the exit polls, and you'll see that's not really true. So, it's at Oakland, Macomb, 48 Clinton, 46 Trump. Really, in truth, it was more like a 4-point split, 3-4 point. It depends on whether or not you allocate two parties and stuff, but it was not just two. It was a little bit more than that. So he's close to that right now because he's doing so much better in Macomb County. All right. And just to break it down, if you guys want to know specifically, Biden leads Trump in Oakland 58-41. There were a lot of votes there. So that's bad. And he's got to close that margin. Again, the subsample skews a little bit too female, but still, it's still a big lead. It's a 17-point lead in Oakland. That's just no bueno for Donald Trump. Donald Trump leads 56-44 in Macomb. That's 12 points. That's down from upwards of 16 points we had at one point for him. So again, subsample skews a little female. It is entirely possible he's doing a little better, but it's also entirely possible he's doing worse because these subsamples are higher. However, in Monroe, he's thrashing Biden 62-38. And Monroe is that like old working class, white working class. They actually did like Obama, and by the way, that's where Obama will be racing off to because he knows he's got to close those margins in Macomb and Monroe. Because if Trump really runs it out there, which if you look at the donations, Laura, it's overwhelming in this area. And these are people who don't have like money to be giving, to political campaigns. So the fact that they are giving low dollar donations in mass numbers is usually a predictive indicator of how those counties swing. And Biden, again, leads 51-47 overall in the suburbs. Trump can overcome that. He can. I hate to tell everybody. The suburbs, supposedly, the exit polls in Michigan went 11 points to Donald Trump. The rural areas went 56-38. The rural areas in Michigan are 27% of the vote. And Trump is doing about 6 points better in urban areas than he did in 2016. So if he offsets a little bit with urban areas and really runs up rural margins, he can overcome losing the burbs. He can. It can't be by a landslide, but he's got to be able to offset it with those numbers. Yeah, he can. What was that one person's question about Democratic turnout?
Oh, yes.
Let me put you on figure 8 so you can hear.
All right. Let's see. Do you think Democrat cities will have trouble getting people to vote due to the riots and hold a lower percent of the electorate than historically?
So we have Wayne County right now, about 17%. A little, it's actually a little bit more. I think it's like 17.4 or something like that. That's why Obama did go to Wayne County. He's returning now again because he did much better in Wayne. He got more votes out. And he's going to go make a plea directly to black voters, which I should show you right now while the screen is up. He's going to make a plea to them and say, don't abandon Joe for this guy. All right. Because they loved him. All right. But look, Republicans are actually doing better on the generic ballot. John James, again, he's getting 11.2%. Look at Trump's. Watch this.
And then
14
compared to 2016.
I think it'll be yeah, I do think there's going to be I would say there's going to be an increase everywhere. I will say this, though. It matters what the share is of the overall state vote. All right. So we always hear about how Barack Obama got more votes out of Wayne County. All right. In truth, how Donald Trump won this thing is he ran out turnout in places like Macomb and Monroe. Michigan's turnout was not down from 2012, like everybody said repeatedly. Mm-hmm. Statewide, it was up 4%. It was just up where he needed it to be and down where Democrats needed it to be. So he will need an ungodly, I'm telling you, he will need to flip Michigan. He will need, or to hold it. He flipped it already. It's a very hard state for a Democrat to win, for a Republican to win. And it's because of these built-in little advantages. And because Wayne, they will cheat. All right. I'm not kidding. If this is close, they're not going to let Donald Trump take Michigan again by 10,000 votes. They'll write him in, Laura. They were caught in 2016 when they they started to go along with Jill Stein with the recount. And then I don't know if you guys remember this, but it started to uncover voter fraud in Detroit and they stopped counting.
They're like, okay.
They were like, oh man, those ballots weren't real. No, they're never real. Many ballots are not real. I'm not going to play this game this time. I'm just not. You understand?
You were nice.
I know. I'm done. What difference does it make, Laura? What difference does it make? Am I going to earn the Slimer's respect or something? Who gives a damn what he thinks? Who gives a damn what all the rest of them think, including the people on the right, like, the Guy Bensons of the world? They've been lying to Americans for years. Speaking of lying to Americans, the New York Times article, look at that. People like Guy Benson and others at Fox News entertain that story of the anonymous high-level administration official who wrote an op-ed in the New York Times. 72 hours that puppy was rolling on Fox News. He turned out to be a nothing staffer at DHS. Never had any connection to the president, not even close, because he's got like humping the leg of Kirsten. He's supposed to know what's going on in the White House. Come on. So who am I going to offend by that? People, morons like that who get duped and entertain stories. It happens. They steal votes. It happens a lot. In fact, yesterday, and maybe she'll give me her permission, but yesterday, she's not the first one. She just provided enormous documentary evidence. Okay. When she went, she is not a legal resident she's a legal resident. She is not a U.S. citizen. And when she registered went to get her driver's license in a Rust Belt state, I'm not going to name it, not until I get her permission, she didn't even know. They motor voted her ass and put her on the voter rolls, even though she's not a legal, a legal citizen who's eligible to vote. She was
a smart legal citizen who asked.
And now she's worried, right? She's a smart legal citizen. This is what happened. She got a text message from a Democratic operative in the state saying, have you voted for Joe Biden yet? And she was like, I'm sorry, how'd you get my number? And by the way, they tried to backpedal. They're trying to backpedal, and they're trying to say first that they didn't know who they were contacting. Folks, she gave me the text messages. They call her by her name. She's on the voter roll. And they admitted first to using voter files to call her. And they wanted us to meet with a time where they could go over the ballot with her and get her out to vote. She's like applying for a green card. And she doesn't want anything to mess it up. So she's not only is she pissed that they're trying to, that they've registered her without her knowledge. Mm-hmm. They're worried that in the background check for the green card, they're going to see illegal voting. Mm-hmm. And she's terrified she's going to be denied a green card now because of Democrats registering and voting for her without her knowledge. And by the way, a study post 2016 in Pennsylvania found 100,000 of those such people on there. I mean, the idea that this doesn't happen, it's crazy. So that brings me back to my point, because this is a neighboring state I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. If it's close, you think they don't have people like that
in line
on a list? Mm-hmm. This is whose ballot you got to fill out. Of course they do.
They already have them.
Of course they do, Laura. You know how it goes.
This is how I see it. They're
in a binder. Yes.
Right.
They're in a binder. Remember the binders?
They're in stacks of thousands.
You remember Broward?
It's like, how many you need? 2? All right, 2 sets.
Remember Broward County? The binders? Folks, they were using stickers, those little colored stickers by color to identify whether or not they had voted. So they were a binder filled with inactive, likely ineligible kind of registration, not legit registrations, dead recent movers. And they were using colors, the little dot stickers, the sticker dots. They were using colors to try to make it out like, this way they're not writing, fill in this ballot. You know what I mean? This way, So they were using little circled dots in Broward to determine whether or not this, they could use this vote or that vote. I mean, this idea doesn't happen is crazy. Anyway, she called the Secretary of State's office to try to dispute that, did they request my ballot? Do they have my ballot? Because this woman was like, trying to go over her ballot with her, and get her out to vote, whatnot. And, she called it because she is afraid they're going to vote on her behalf. And that when they run the check for the green card, to be and then eventually to be a permanent U.S. citizen. Yeah, how messed up is that?
They don't even
give a damn if they ruin her life. They don't give a damn, right? And I'm telling you, when I get her permission, maybe I'll be able to show them to you tomorrow. You'll clearly see. And then when they're contacted, they're backpedaling. And they're like, oh, well, no, I guess you probably were on a list. Probably the previous owner of this number. She was like, this is a new number. This is a new number. You call me by my name. I mean, guys, she's on the file. They had her name. I mean, it's unbelievable. And they're just trying. The backpedaling doesn't make any sense, is my point. And they don't even care. They don't even care if they ruin this woman's life. They don't give a rat's, They just don't care. All right, let's check out tariffs. All right. Overwhelming support for tariffs. For the use of tariffs in and you know what? I didn't give you guys you guys see how I do this. Columns, rows. I save columns for demographics. And then if later you want to cross stuff like voter enthusiasm, likelihood, motivation, age detail. Michigan is one of the areas where Democrats are pretty enthusiastic. I have to say, typically, Republicans in general are more enthusiastic. This does seem like Democrats are enthusiastic. All right. Oops. Where are we? Let's get rid of Where are we? A pox on ballot harvesters. There's the Harris administration court pad. It's not the one I'm looking for. I'm looking for the USMCA. Okay, here's tariffs. A lot of people, and this is a failure of the Trump campaign, a lot of people don't know what we're talking about when we're bringing up the USMCA. Now, some of that has to do with who you're calling. So if you are talking to, watch, it's going to go through this. You guys can watch how I do it. While I speak, because I can multitask. But if you are talking to more metro people, the truth is they probably are not going to know what you're talking about when it comes to this stuff. But people in Macomb, people in Monroe, they know. You understand what I'm saying? It really does matter by region. Still, what you would think is a sad number of people don't know what we're talking about when we're talking about NAFTA, when we're talking about the USMCA, and some are younger. So they really, the truth of the matter is they don't, they weren't around for that, guys. They don't remember the WTO. If you go by age, you can clearly see it. They don't remember NAFTA and the impact the WTO may have had on their jobs, on their communities. That's just the truth, so it is what it is. But now that I loaded it up, I think it's pretty important to state, and then we'll move on to some economic stuff before we clear out. I will tweet out the sheet for you guys, okay? So look at that. By actually more than a 2-to-1 margin among people who know, NAFTA is supported. The USMCA is supported over NAFTA. Even females. Look at men, though, guys. You want to know how Trump ran up the damn margin? Look at that. That not only is it a bigger margin, but they know the difference. And not really a bigger margin. What I'm saying is more people supported, a larger percentage, because men know it impacts their lives personally. It determines whether or not, bad trade policy can determine whether a man has dignity or not. The dignity of work, and to be able to look his wife in the eye and his children in the eyes at the end of the day. Or whether or not he feels like a failure because he doesn't know how to code, because, some people, and I don't want to say anything, some people, some candidates don't appreciate the value of what he does. That stuff can be downsized and shipped off overseas to our buddies. So they know. I mean, it's not
What
it's
do you think
real
is
life.
the message, though, that Michigan needs to hear to?
I mean, it's a little late in the game. This GDP number is a good number. Like I said, numbers themselves don't sway people, but it can affirm something. He needs to remind Michigan why they voted for him in the first place. That girl we were just talking about.
Yeah, he needs to.
Yeah, and and I think he helped himself pointing out. And Joe Biden hurt himself when he forced Joe Biden to admit that a lockdown could be again in the future, because women tightened after that, Laura. It was bad in Michigan with women. The only thing that was doing Trump justice was his relatively solid and strong support among those men. He really needs to remind those working men that, you hired me to do this job for a reason, because of people like him. And I did it for you. If you turn back the clock now, your new life is not promised. It's just not, because you have, and really the pandemic thing was an issue. I wanted to ask about that question. Are you better off? Most people say they are better off, but then you would always have this chunk who says I was better off before the pandemic, who our young girl, 30 to 44 fits into. Okay. And the bottom line is she needs to be told and made to believe that, he is the way back. Like, you made the right decision the first time, but this is something that it is a hard task for Donald Trump to do, because he allowed those public health experts to seize control of economic policy. Wow, look at that wind. See,
sorry.
Yeah, sorry about that. It's just, that was roaring.
That was
All right, so 2 seconds. Speaking of economic policy, let's take a look at that GDP number. I will tweet out in a second. I'll tweet out that Google sheet, okay? Hot minute. Let me grab it.
Oh, wow. It's quick.
If you see traffic, guys, there's a ton of traffic on these sheets. Sometimes it can do it, and it'll say there's too much traffic right now. Just refresh it. Wolverine State Battleground poll. There you go. It's going out now. And hopefully Periscope does not diss it. Periscope likes to diss our links quite a bit. Nope, it let it go out. Okay. All right. Awesome. Let's bring me back. Let's stop this. I got the other one loaded up and ready. Let's kill that for now. And let's bring back the GDP growth. All right.
Everybody's
Tab.
loving Trafalgar right now.
Why? What's he doing?
Because it's Trafalgar has him winning in everything. You know that.
Instead of Minnesota, I think he's got Trump down in Minnesota.
Except Minnesota, but like with Wisconsin and Michigan.
I have actually always believed, guys. Oh, his Wisconsin has Trump inching ahead. Listen.
Or was it tied? I think.
Well, he had Biden up by like 0.3 or something in his last one.
Yeah.
But that doesn't surprise me, because there are some of us that are doing these weights at a more granular level, and we're taking a risk. But because randomization has been kicked in the butt, we're taking a bigger risk. But that's why you'll see some crazy stuff in polling that just doesn't make sense to you. And county by county, it doesn't make sense to you. And that's because you cannot rely on total randomization when you have these different modes that people are doing. You just can't. You have to make sure you're representative. All right. So the advanced estimate for Q3 2020, GDP soared 33.1%. All right. This ad just doesn't want to stop playing. I don't care. It's a political ad. It won't go away. I'm sorry about that, guys. I will handle that, because if you want to X out those videos, then you have every right to X out those videos. So he's not going to be able to run ads on my damn site if he doesn't let you X them out. All right. So this is a historic rebound of epic proportions. And I'm going to show you the graph in a second. U.S. economy grew at the fastest pace ever in the third quarter. The Bureau of Economic Analysis reported the advanced estimate for third quarter gross domestic product soared 33.1% on an annualized basis, a historic rebound that beat the forecast. Due to mitigation efforts to slow the spread of coronavirus COVID-19, real GDP fell negative 32.4 on an annualized basis in the second quarter of 2020. Forecasts range from a low of 20% to a high of 36%. The consensus forecast was 30.9%. What in the Sam hell is going on with my chart? Oh my goodness. I have to show that to you. I'll pull it up from the other thing. It's loading from a Google sheet. it's possible that because there's a lot of traffic on this article right now. It's possible my Google Sheet is taking a crap, and that's not okay. All right. The increase in third quarter GDP reflected continued efforts to reopen businesses and resume activities that were postponed or restricted due to COVID-19, the BEA stated. The full economic effects of the COVID-19 pandemic cannot be quantified in the GDP estimate for the third quarter of 2020 because the impacts are generally embedded in source data and cannot be separately identified. All right. Now. Cannot be now. Unfortunately, in the second and third estimates, we're going to be able to point the fingers at people that deserve it. Because the truth is, if Democrats in mayors in liberal cities, governors in blue and purple states weren't trying to sabotage the economy to win an election, GDP could have grew probably 45%. I am not joking. In large part, personal consumption expenditures, PCE, folks, drove the increase. That is consumer spending, skyrocketing by a historic 40.7% in Q2 after falling 33.2% in the prior quarter. So that wiped away the decrease in consumer spending that we had. It's gone. Poof. It even wiped away the first quarter, which the BEA stated was because of the stay-at-home orders at the tail end of the first quarter. There was never going to be an economic shutdown, an economic slowdown in 2020. That was a lie pushed and peddled by the media again. Truly, they are the enemy of the American people. Truly, these people are our enemy, right and left. If you're on the left, they hurt you too. Economics is all. Forecasts for PCE range from a low of 30.3% to a high of 39.2%. Whoops, thank you. The consensus forecast was 38.9%. So again, beat the consensus. Private inventory investment, exports, non-residential fixed investment, and residential fixed investment also helped to partially offset what were declines in federal government spending, reflecting lower fees paid to administer the Paycheck Protection Program loans, and state and local spending. Personal savings came in at 22. Wow, that would have been huge. 2.78 trillion in Q3, which is down from an inflated 4.71 trillion in Q2. The personal savings rate, which is personal savings as a percentage of disposable personal income, fell to 15.8% in Q3, down from 25.7% in Q2. All right, so let's see if I can actually get this to load up again. Let me purge that puppy and see if it'll load. It's updating live data. This is why I didn't want to do that, but Everviz, if you're watching, we love you, but this is why I didn't want this, because if you have to aggressively cache, then you have an issue. I'm going to go because I want to show people these. Oh, never mind. Hot second, guys. Hot second. I got another way to do this. I want to show them the charts because it's a big deal. They're big deals. It's on, if you follow PPD, which you should, of course, on the PPD Twitter account, you would see these already. It means everything. I mean, it's important. You will not see it on CNBC. You will not see it on CNN Money. You will not see it even probably on Fox Business. But this is a big deal. All right, let's go back up here. I'm going to show this here. Here's the entire series plotted on a line chart. Gold meaning money, 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 cha-ching, and red meaning declines. All right. Take a gander, by the way, at Barack Obama's tenure. Okay. You can clearly see on Barack Obama's tenure that there were repeated first quarters that were negative. There were none under Donald Trump. We had the COVID shutdown, and that is when it went negative. The first quarter would not have been negative if it wasn't for the COVID shutdown. You see there what is a historic decline for the second quarter at 31.3%, I believe was the end result, at 31.4. I don't have it in front of me. And now you see a historic increase at 33.1, wiping away the historic decline. Now, let's take a look at the 1 year, okay? I've never heard of a K-shaped recovery. Let's take a look at the 1 year.
I love that.
That is a V. That is an
Three.
overpronounced V. As you can see, it did not return to the baseline. It went past the baseline and wiped away the declines from the second quarter. Whoosh, gone. In fact, we're on our way to wiping away the slight loss of around 5% in the first quarter. If GDP grows by like a measly 2% in Q4, the year 2020 will actually be positive annualized growth. It's economic growth. Think about what I'm just saying to you right now. After a 31+% drop in GDP in the second quarter of this year, and a slight 4 to 5, whatever it's ended up being, drop in the first quarter because of the stay-at-home orders. If the fourth quarter comes in like 2%, and folks, we all know it's going to be a big number. Nobody's even disputing whether it'll be a big number in the fourth quarter. If it comes in at like 3%, we will have annual growth in this economy after what was an effort to commit economic suicide during a global pandemic. Think about that, folks. Think about what I'm saying. That's crazy. Did anybody think 6 months ago that we would end up positive for 2020 in economic growth? Think about what a feat that is. Go back to this chart. Look at Barack Obama. Look at his tenure. Guy couldn't get over 2%. Kept having multiple declines in the first quarter. Weak first quarter. The weakest economic recovery since FDR. And by the way, this shouldn't be a surprise because the textbook rule, the rule of thumb here is the bigger the decline, the sharper the rebound. We did not see that after the Great Recession. We saw stagnation and malaise. This is what an economic recovery looks like. I don't know what else to say. I don't know how else to put it to you. I mean, sometimes numbers can get a little screwy and everyone can, fudge them and take them and cherry pick this or cherry pick that. That's why I use entire series data and we illustrate it. Because visualizations tell the story with data journalism, folks. It's not even close. The economic records are not even close. Be building back better in China. Here's PA. I forgot to show you this yesterday.
That was cute.
All right. I mean, it's just true, Laura. I mean, it really is true. I mean, someone's got to tell the truth. Someone has got to tell the truth, and they've made me this cynic. Sadly, they've made me this cynic. Somebody's got to tell the truth. Here's the distribution from our poll in Pennsylvania yesterday. By the way, I love Spencer, but I strongly suspect he was afraid to be the first one to put out Trump +1 in Pennsylvania because he has independents going by an even bigger margin than we do for Donald Trump in Pennsylvania. And he's not really losing any of his base. The only reason why Biden was up is because he had 99% support among his own base. Okay, I want to say something about this before I move on to show you the distribution in Michigan. Folks, that has never happened to me in all of my years in polling. I have never polled. I went back and even started looking yesterday. In all of my years, I have never found 99% support for a party candidate in their base. It's not statistically possible. I mean, it is, but do you have any idea how unlikely it is that he failed to call somebody in Cambria County that's a registered Democrat that's voting for Donald Trump? It's a ludicrous proposition. Nobody will dispute that. He just didn't want to come out with a Trump +1 or 2. So that is what happened. I've never found it. In fact, I challenge all of you guys to go try to find one right now. Anyone, any poll. And then tell me whether that poll was accurate if you find it. Because I have never seen 99% base support. Never. All right. So here's the one in Michigan. That's the distribution we really nailed all over the state of Pennsylvania. I mean, we just really racked it up, even in the north central area of the state, which is very difficult to reach. Very difficult. We got it. And we oversampled quite a few other areas. We got it. By the way, in that last poll, we had Trump pull slightly. I thought Joe Biden would hold Lackawanna, and I still do. I just thought that would be an area where he would widen it out, Laura, and that Monroe was probably going, and Luzerne was going to be a thumping. But in our last PA poll, small sample, I can't wait to really oversample it. In our last PA poll, Lackawanna was almost dead even. So that would be a nightmare for Joe Biden. All right. Here is Michigan. There are dots all over I couldn't zoom in. If I clicked and zoomed in one more time, it would cut out parts of Michigan. And I was trying to get the Upper Peninsula. So there are other dots all over, but that is, you see that on the spreadsheet too. I wrote a little note that basically said, that they peer off. There's no way for me to cut those people off without removing. It's just a glitch in Leaflet, which plots these points. It's a glitch. It takes longitude and latitude. And I was going to put it on high charts because that will do it. But it was just, there's so much to do, that this is done automatically in our system because Leaflet's connected to it. And that saves me time, guys. All right. But you could clearly see we got all over Michigan. Pretty damn good sampling. All right. I don't think we missed anywhere. Could oversample a little bit more. Sure. But that's part of phase 2. That's the plan. All right, so there we have it. And thank you, by the way, for the contribution still to the public polling project. I am ending it today. I am cutting it off today. But if you still want to contribute to some of those oversamplings so we can try to adjust before the end, you could do so. And links are down at the bottom. Venmo.com/People's Pundit. PayPal.me/People's Pundit. After today, I'm ending it. I think we'll have enough. All right. And we'll go from there. And I see some of your messages that basically say, hey, can we sneak in New Hampshire? New Hampshire's I tried. New Hampshire is being it's small, and I'm concerned about fatigue. All right, so if we're gonna circle back at all, maybe circle back to Florida. I don't know yet, but I do want to make sure we oversample these counties. I really have to tell you, folks, after polling all of these states, it's Pennsylvania, 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 and you guys noticed the Trump campaign? You see their schedule for Saturday? Right? You see it? He's basically parked in Pennsylvania for the entire day. I really just believe it will I really do believe it will hold Pennsylvania will hold the key to the next term. And I just do. Attitudinally, it seems like a better spot. The NBC Marist poll, they really, I think Florida, I never like to call Florida, folks, but Susquehanna, good pollster. They have MPAs moving to Donald Trump. We did too. The Florida early vote, very interesting, but it really isn't a matter of just numbers. It's also a matter of who is in those numbers. And Republicans have more reliable voters left on the table, and Democrats don't have the 550,000 to 800,000 voter registration edge in Florida that they used to. And contrary to what Dave Wasserman and all the rest of those guys say, that is not from white people changing their registration. Older white Democrats dying off the rolls. There's always multiple explanations for something. There always is. And no one thing explains something in politics often. But the bottom line is Arizona tonight, Austin, Arizona tonight. All right. And maybe even today. The one thing is that we clearly see is that this was driven by new arrivals. Every month when the updates happened and they were talking the new voter metric, Republicans were outperforming Democrats in most of those months. They're new arrivals from other states, new arrivals from Venezuela, New arrivals from Colombia. Colombians, by the way, are overwhelmingly going for Donald Trump. New arrivals from Cuba because of the change in policy. Less arrivals from Puerto Ricans, even though that was the major talk from the media because of Hurricane Maria. It just didn't turn out to be that many. It just didn't. It is not just the case that all white Democrats died off the rolls. It's just not true. It's more than that. As always with politics, it's multiple things. And if the 2 points even, Manny, 2 points even. And if it's the case that as multiple people now are finding that MPAs are moving to Donald Trump at the end, and again, Florida, very similar to Michigan in the fact that a lot of those MPAs now, too, that is part of it. Some of them, just when you call them, they just call themselves Republicans. And with this turnout, Biden needed a 10%, 15% MPA win. Nobody on either side of the aisle believes that's going to happen. And in fact, now, 2 polls, 3, show Donald Trump pulling ahead with MPAs, which doesn't surprise me. Because if you looked at where they told, who told us they were going to vote and when, more conservative MPAs are moving towards closer to Election Day. They're voting now, and they will vote on Election Day. The media likes to tell the early vote story early, and then they never, ever, ever update that narrative. The truth is, in North Carolina, Democrats are in a worse position right now than they were in 2016. That's the truth in North Carolina. They're going to end up, if not as bad, very close to as bad in Florida. And I think it's a worse scenario because, again, they don't have the pool of voters they used to once have that they can go race and tap. They're not there. I just don't see what they think, how they think they're going to pull that off. In North Carolina, independents at this point will have to go pretty significantly to Joe Biden. Survey USA now is showing that that's not true. And Survey USA, honestly, I'm not downing anybody. I'm simply saying that they don't have the, what's it called? They don't have the fantastic track. Their trend record is good, but their final number is not great. They did this in 2016 too. Started to move to Trump in North Carolina at the end. I suspect if they did one more poll, they would show Trump up at like 2 points. They either overstate or understate the winner, but the trend line is typical. They had Biden up by 5 last week. They have it dead even right now. Dead even. That shows a swing to Trump. And it's hard when you're trying to pick up these late swings. It's very difficult. It is very difficult. North Carolina, by the way, let's do some comparison. And it may be a little bit old at this point, okay? Where are you? I just had it. I jotted it down before. That basically, Democrats had a 16+% edge in 2016. When Obama won, it was 20 plus in 08. And now we're down to it's below 12 now, isn't it? I'm just trying to check, but pretty much overwhelming late voting for Republicans. I just don't see it. I know it'll be close, and it's closer than the Trump campaign wants it to be, but I just don't see it. The Dem lead, as of a couple hours ago, under 200,000, under 300,000, about 280 and change. When they lost North Carolina by 3 points in 2016, the Dem lead was over 300,000. All right. So on this trajectory, we're looking at a low 200 to mid 200 early vote advantage for Republicans. Black turnout is down slightly, but they're banking older black votes. Now, that's good for them because they're their most loyal Democratic vote. You guys know that. We went over that before. They are their most loyal vote, but the black vote that could come out could be more could be more. By the way, the person I was talking about gave me permission to release it. She just doesn't want her name to be out there. So tomorrow, guys, I'll fuzzy it up to keep her identity, to respect her identity. I guess she's watching the show. I just saw the message. But yeah, I'll make sure, don't worry. I'll make sure that that's all taken care of. All right. But, the more black vote that comes in later tends to be more conservative in North Carolina. And actually, Republicans tend to win quite a bit of the black vote in North Carolina, disproportionately so. And in a year where Trump is overperforming with black voters, everybody's admitting that now. It could be that you can't even rely on that increase. So if Democrats see the increase, well, now black vote is on par as a percentage of the electorate. That doesn't necessarily mean, that it's a good thing. All right. Arizona will get updated later. There's some good news for Republicans coming out of Arizona as well in Maricopa. Did you guys hear about that guy from CBS? I just have to bring this up. So he went to a very liberal precinct in Maricopa County. And he started going out there and talking to early voters. And I'm looking at the crowd. And this is why you can never judge a book by its cover. I'm looking at the crowd and I'm like, okay, he goes to the most liberal precinct in Maricopa County. Look at these people. They're just going to be like Biden. Everyone, he said, and then when they came back to him, they said that, I don't want to say the number. It was like 20 people went by before he got somebody who said Biden. There you go. Yeah, because and the court case in North Carolina is a little bit different. In truth, North Carolina has always counted ballots for 3 days after. Okay? They have always counted ballots for 3 days after. So that's not really new. All right? It's not really new. All right? And that's really where it's 9 days now. It's not that different. There's not a whole lot of votes that if he winds up taking North Carolina by like 3 points, they really would have to bring it down quite a bit. I don't know what I did. I just got in the way of light or something. Sorry about that. I screwed it up. All right. Also, one more thing real quick before we get out of here, before we skate out of here. I do want to go to this vax story, if that's cool with you guys. I think it's important. All right. We'll do that real quick. Then let me get working on Arizona and Wisconsin. And we will we'll have more results for you tomorrow. Spend a lot of time talking about the results and questions tomorrow. All right. So this made a splash yesterday, but I knew it would. Pfizer will submit their coronavirus application to the FDA on November 20th, requesting emergency use authorization. Now, this is, of course, as it says in the damn story, the date is subject to change, but that is their target date. Researchers say Pfizer's SARS-CoV-2, COVID-19 coronavirus vaccine is just around the corner. Pfizer Inc., PFE, plans to submit an application to the Food and Drug Administration, FDA, requesting emergency use authorization for its coronavirus vaccine on November 20th. People's Pundit Daily spoke exclusively with sources at the company with knowledge of the nation's coronavirus vaccine development efforts, who spoke on the condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to speak on the record. Section 564 of the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, FD&C Act, grants the FDA commissioner, in this case Stephen Hahn, the authority to facilitate the availability and uses of medical countermeasures, or MCMs, needed during public health emergencies. EUA authority allows the FDA to approve MCMs to treat conditions associated with chemical, biological, radiological, or nuclear CBRN threats or emerging infectious diseases. The November 20 date is a fluid target, but Pfizer also intends to start pediatric and maternal protocols by January, according to one source directly involved with the effort. Now, it is a fluid date, but they really want to get going on the other subgroups of people, right? So that's normal populations. But now, what about a woman who's pregnant, right? What about kids, pediatrics? They want to get this one out of the way and in emergency use authorization, and their data looks good. And we'll talk about that in a second. But there's something that came basically with this is why we got some people to speak up and give us the go. Now, of course, they don't want us. They wanted anonymity, but we've had this story for a while, or at least not the date, but we've had the general facts surrounding their development efforts for a while, but we respected them and we didn't publish it. However, a tipping point came when Biden and Harris and the Democrats and the media decided to politicize the shit out of this thing. All right. However, sources tell PPD the damage done by those politicizing vaccine development is on par with anti-vaccination lobby. So anti-vaxxers, they're lumping those people in with the same category as Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. And when she learns how to speak her own name correctly, then people can bother me about how I talk about her name. Former Vice President Joe Biden has amassed a long history of casting doubt on the coronavirus vaccine. Mr. Biden, the 2020 Democratic presidential nominee, questioned whether the vaccine will be real and whether it will be distributed with any degree of equity and realization. Oh, what the hell that means. Kamala Harris, his vice presidential running mate, said she may not take a coronavirus vaccine developed under the Trump administration. Anyway, developers say such remarks are irresponsible. They undermine their work and undermine what will inevitably be a massive effort to distribute this vaccine to an already vaccine skeptical public. So vaccine researchers are constantly fighting skepticism around vaccines. When you have political figures, including ones that are so-called leading the political race for president right now to be the next administration, when you have them casting dispersions on your work, it makes your job and your work, it makes your job difficult and makes your life pretty much miserable. Over the summer, the Trump administration launched Operation Warp Speed, aimed at delivering 300 million doses of a safe, effective, and authorized vaccine for SARS-CoV-2, otherwise known as COVID-19, by the end of the year. Efforts resulting from Operation Warp Speed, quote, have been working with remarkable efficiency, unquote, according to the New York Times. While 3 vaccine candidates did show promise during trials, they were from Pfizer, AstraZeneca, and Moderna. Pfizer has the furthest global reach. In July, the Trump administration struck a historic deal with the company. That's why they did this, and there's more reasons why in a second, which we'll get to secure 100 million vaccine doses with the potential for nearly 500 million more to follow as soon as the FDA approves and it is manufactured. Per the agreement, Pfizer will begin delivering the doses to the American people at no cost. It's a free vaccine. Well, free to people. It's coming out of our tax dollars, but I'm actually okay with that.
For that vaccine?
I'm okay with that, right? We do a lot with the flu, do we not? I mean, the Trump administration simply directs the company to the locations for distribution. So this is why they're really pissed. Oh, well, maybe it's not safe. Trump isn't developing the vaccine, they are. And then maybe Trump will not give it to everybody equally. They will distribute it. They're just told by the FDA where to.
And the insinuation that
is like they're racist.
The insinuation that Harris insinuated that Trump would more likely poison you than give you a good vaccine.
Which it was outrageous.
To say that he's just going to straight kill you.
Yeah.
Just to
as if like Pfizer and Moderna and AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson, who's out now, as if they would just like allow that. Like, yeah, so Trump told us to poison you. So it pisses people off, folks. It's not funny. It's not fun. There are some things you just don't politicize. And they are sick and tired of being told by the uppers to basically just shut up and stay out of it when nobody else stays out of it, including Anthony Fauci. Right, Laura? Including Anthony Fauci, who they have known has made incorrect statements about their development. And you're going to find out why here in a second. Even though he's in here.
Whatever suits the needs of the narrative.
Quote, I would not hesitate for a moment to take the vaccine myself and recommend it to my family. Dr. Anthony Fauci, a member of the White House Coronavirus Task Force and head of the National Institute of Health, said in response to Mr. Biden and Mrs. Harris's remarks that cast doubt on the safety of the vaccine. NIH colleague, Dr. Francis Collins, added, the safety and the effectiveness will not be compromised. Sources at Pfizer said the application submitted to the FDA will naturally include safety and efficacy data. And in fact, noted that the company previously submitted 6 amendments with supporting data. And I think the 7th one is in. If it's not already, it will be shortly. The adverse event monitoring. This is why it's important we don't piss Pfizer off. Okay. Adverse event monitoring for the vaccine candidates developed by Pfizer is reportedly much lower compared to other candidates. So AstraZeneca and Moderna, okay, let me put it this way. Advanced event monitoring is a system that's basically developed by the FDA, and it will tell you whether or not there are issues. So there are adverse impacts from the vaccine. And it's literally a monitoring system that the FDA has set up. As Anthony Fauci knows damn well, Moderna's advanced event monitoring is very high. Pfizer is got the lowest adverse event monitoring candidate right now. Multiple candidates, actually, they've been testing. So let's not piss off the company that's doing a good job because you want to win an election or demonize them. Quote, we will do our job to assess the safety and the efficacy of a vaccine candidate, Commissioner Hahn said in a previous statement addressing the process for reviewing applications. Quote, science and data are really going to guide this decision and nothing else. Unquote. There you have it, folks. There you have it. All right. It is 11:37. Every time I say I'm going to shorten the show, I don't. It's just that it's important stuff.
There's
it's a lot of information to get through. And I've had people tell me all the time, you consider, like Laura, most people say, no, don't shorten it to an hour on the regular basis. But for the fact, the fact remains that there's just not enough time to get through all this information in such a short period. There's just not. All right. But I do have to boogie woogie now. If you want me to crunch Wisconsin, I'm going to update Arizona. All right. We will, like I said, we'll be doing nightly updates unless I can potentially get them faster. There is good news for Republicans out of Maricopa, by the way. This is why we told people don't get all up in a tizzy. Here is 2018. Republicans were significantly outvoting Democrats in the early vote in Arizona. And then what we saw clear as day, was Democrats picked up the pace because they were down. What we're seeing right now is a reversal of this. Okay. And it really will come down to those MPAs, how they vote, the nuns, right? Mm-hmm. That really will be what it comes down to.
I mean, I see it as this.
And then the
really
base support.
Yeah, I see everything is honestly within the grasp. It's just who got their message across better.
That's it.
In the end.
Yep. It really is.
Everything is within the error of margin. I mean, the margin of error.
Yep.
If I could speak.
Totally agree.
But it's like, just because Trump is not plus 20 in Michigan, like certain polls want him to be, it doesn't mean it's not within. It's not there.
Yep. Yeah. I guess I got to tell you though, Laura.
But he could also lose it.
And I think it's more likely than not at this moment. But the trend
it's firming
is the trend is going in his direction. It really is. There's just,
and that's a good thing.
And it's
worried about a high spike.
It's a matter of whether or not that trend continues. There are a lot of votes that are still on the table. I really don't care what people are saying about that. I mean, the fact of the matter is we talk to people every day. Mm-hmm. And the people who remain undecided that will decide the election, they haven't voted yet. And we heard this in 2016. All right. And this was the way it was going to play out abnormally. It just was going to. Mm-hmm. And the people who were more likely to support the president were going to vote later in this process. I mean, we've been asking these questions for 2 months. If you've been following, you're not surprised, but you're also not swayed by, or at least you shouldn't be. I shouldn't have DMs asking me the same question over and over again. If, Nate at the New York Times had asked that question over 2 periods and then asked him about their trust in it, right? And which way they prefer, that what's their voting motivation, intention, trust levels, it really wouldn't surprise. These patterns should not be a surprise. And I don't mean just who are you going to vote, which way are you going to vote. That's not good enough.
No.
We've been drilling down on this thing for 2 months. You should not be shocked to watch the Democratic lead in Florida evaporating. You shouldn't be surprised to see in North Carolina the Democratic lead is gone, almost gone. I'm talking about the verse 2016. Yeah, because Republicans always leave a big vote on the table. You should not be surprised to see Pennsylvania weighted quite a bit. They're lagging other states. You should not be surprised to see that. Because what did they tell us in Pennsylvania? I'm not going to pull the chart up again. If you're a watcher, right? So there was plenty of time to win or lose this election.
Yes.
And they're doing this. They're trying to do this it's a narrative. It really is. Whether Joe Biden wins or Donald Trump wins, there's no doubt they engaged in narrative building and narrative pushing. And they're not a news media anymore. No. We can't trust the news that comes out. They're super PACs. Oh my God, that's right. I keep telling everybody, they're like, oh, bias, oh, this. No, the real way to go after them. And if Donald Trump was to win election, the way to level the playing field again is to treat them as super PACs, or at least they're violating the law acting as super PACs without being registered as super PACs. And what the New York Times does, what CNN is doing, what all the rest of them are doing, essentially in-kind campaign contributions. These are political messages that are being spread as news without being compensated for it. And that is called an in-kind campaign contribution. And it's a violation of the law.
Sure is.
And that is, if Trump was to win, he'd be unchained, man. And that would be the way to go after him. This idea of censorship, same thing with Jack Dorsey. Ted Cruz finally figured that out last night. He is a brilliant legal mind. He is the only one so far I have heard gets it.
Yes.
What Jack Dorsey and Twitter are doing is a violation of campaign finance laws. It's the most egregious, like ones, because most of them are a joke. But these are the ones that could really get us in trouble.
Yes, sir.
This is the way to go. Forget about the antitrust issues. That's great. Hit them there too. Knock yourself out. These are campaign finance violations. These are conspiracies. That is a way to go. And if Trump was to win, he could really just take the gloves off on these SOBs. Because I don't care if you're on the right or the left, folks. I don't care if they're censoring Donald Trump's message or Bernie Sanders' message. I don't like it. That's not America. That is not what we were built on. They take that from us. If you let your hatred cloud your reason and you let them take that from us, it's over. It's over for your children. It will be over for you and me in our lifetimes. It will definitely be over for our children. It will definitely be over for their children, your grandchildren. So remember that the next time you let hatred cloud your reason, the same way many of them did to really get duped into thinking the president colluded with the Russians to steal the election in 2016. I mean, just stop.
Yeah,
stop it.
Nonsense.
Just stop it. Keep your eye on the prize. The important thing is, do you want a cabal of techies and big government and big business and big money controlling the way you think, what you're allowed to think?
Yeah.
I study public opinion. What's the point? If they get away, what's the point? We're all going to think like stupid drones from that movie where they all walk around in white. You remember that? And then the minute you get an original thought, like they come for you and erase your brain again. Like I'm serious, but it's not even funny. That's the philosophy you're headed toward.
Big tech is good at manipulating your brain into what they're
taking psychological warfare tactics. And even General McChrystal, who I know from my time in the Army, I mean, I don't personally know him, but you know him if you did what I did in the military. You know who he is, Stanley. They are using weapons that we reserve for the enemy to topple regimes. If we want to topple a regime and create regime instability and incredibility, like make them not credible anymore. they're reserving these dark arts, these psyops. They have turned them on us.
Mhm.
And that's a whole new world, folks. A whole new world. All right. But I'll leave you with that. Let me get back to work.
The
If you
movie,
guys,
what was that movie?
I don't
It was
remember,
with
but we'll
Matt
figure it
Damon,
out.
right?
And no, it's not with Matt
Yes,
Damon.
it was.
No, it's not. It's maybe she is. I'll look it up when I'm done. I can't remember it. And if I try, then I'll throw myself off. But yeah, last day to support the public polling project. I really don't think we need to go anymore. It's Thursday already. Whatever we have, and that's it. I don't want to. The adjustment bureau. That's a different one. That's a different one.
No,
I don't know. But yeah, she threw me off. I knew she was gonna do it.
Sorry.
I would rather come up a little shy than come up too much and not know what to do with the money. All right. And because we're just running out of time and I don't have the capability to poll another 4 states. So if you guys were to like blow it up, I'd be in trouble. All right. So we'll leave it at that. Don't forget to subscribe to the page, People's Pundit Daily on YouTube. Hit that notification bell. That will let you know when we're about to go live. Of course, if you're a Facebook user, the real way to stick it to these people, folks, because they are blocking us and throttling us. The real way to stick it to them is to mosey on over to Facebook right now, click the like button, and that's a big giant to all the people that Mark Zuckerberg does not know how to control. All right. And then really, I mean, it's scary, the kinds of people that they are, for them to want to control our thoughts and our ideas. These are not good or decent people, or even normal people for that matter. They're freaking weirdos. I mean, no, thank you. And we'll be back again at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. Don't forget to keep an eye out for Arizona and Wisconsin. I think we're right around the corner on Wisconsin. If I have to put it up now and then we'll adjust it a little bit as other things come in, I will just put that on there. Like, here's the result as of now. We'll expect it to be adjusted. And all of these will be adjusted because all of them will get oversampling in areas like for Pennsylvania, Bucks, Chester, Macomb, Bucks, Chester, Luzerne, Monroe, Lackawanna, Erie, and then, some other areas. We already know how Delaware and the rest of them are going to go. We know that margin already. They're bigger samples, so we do know that margin. And then for Michigan, Monroe, Macomb, Oakland, and several others. But we're going to hit them. Important stuff. I didn't get to go over nationality. If you have a chance, check out the nationality break in both of these polls. When you look at Norwegians, very small, but they'll come into play big time in Wisconsin and Minnesota. And I'm not waiting for them, but I thought it would be just pretty neat to look at. All right. So I'm going to leave you guys there. See you at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow, folks. Thanks for watching Inside the Numbers.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love, because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
We can get on a plane and take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for a knife, so give in to the need and leave it all behind.
Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told